Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com. That's still my email. It's still in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms, please reach out to me directly. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we are discussing the second of the Panerai Bronzo series. This is the Panerai Luminor Submersible 1950 3 days Bronzo, the PAM00507, a 2013 model year limited edition of 1,000 pieces in a combination of bronze and titanium. That's titanium for the case back. It is a large watch, this Luminor 1950 style case, 47 millimeters in diameter by 18 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 56.6 millimeters with a 26 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now when I throw it on my wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. Quite comfortable, but large. I'd recommend this watch for a bigger wrist than mine. In fact, a significantly bigger wrist than mine. I recommend your wrist be 18 centimeters circumference or larger to wear this with any sense of reasonable proportion or grace. Now, it's not supposed to be an elegant watch, but it also shouldn't dwarf your forearm here, and you can see those lugs are rather dramatically overhanging the edges of my wrist. Always a no-go. Plus, it's a very thick watch. It won't hide underneath the cuff. We have a lovely strap here. You can see bright gloss calfskin on the top, more conventional calfskin on the bottom. There's a reddish brown coloration. You can see incredibly thick leather, sheer cut, showing you the thickness of the cuts. That sort of off-white or ecru matching the color of the bronze case, as well as the numerals and the hands, which are rose gold plated. And then we've got a Panerai buckle, the trapezoidal style, brushed and made out of titanium. This is probably the most common pin buckle on modern Panerai watches. The Bronzo was a breakthrough when it first arrived in 2013. The combination of the military-inspired olive green dial and the nautically-inspired bronze case, perfectly consistent with Panerai's history of maritime feats as well as military tactical daring-do. Now, the watch is a 1950, which means it has a more sophisticated case design that's closer to those actually made in the 1950s for the Italian Navy and its allies, very similar to a 6152 combat watch. The 1950 case reappeared in 2002 on the PAM00507, and it's in contrast to the Betterini or tuna can case that launched with the initial civilian Panerai watches in the 90s. Of course, we have the iconic device protecting the crown. Crown guard alone, you know what model line and you know what brand. Of course, it gives you more protection than a shouldered crown guard because a direct hit won't strike the crown. It's also harder to drown your watch, as it's very difficult to jump in the water without noting that. You can also see how easy it is to unlock the crown. Now I can wind the watch, I can set the watch. Notice I have an independently mobile hour hand, plus I have a zero reset hacking seconds system and a power reserve indicator for my 3 days of power reserve. But the key thing here is how easy it is to unlock and relock the crown when your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved, which can be difficult with a screw-down crown. Plus, you don't thread the crown through the seals over and over again, which doesn't diminish the seals. You compress and decompress the seal, a smart system. It was originally devised because Panerai, in the era of Rolex-made oyster cases, and all the 3646 first-generation Panerai combat watches were Rolex-made, but that Rolex oyster crown threading in and out every day to wind a manual wind watch was wearing down the seals. So this system merely compresses and decompresses them. And when compressed, you get an impressive amount of water resistance, 300 meters. The timepiece has a bezel. Let's listen. That has a wonderfully chunky action. And just so you're sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep, there you go. It is a 60-click bezel. Big, chunky, Godzilla-sized clicks. Easy to read this watch in the dark. As you can see, all the hands, including the power reserve indicator, are luminescent. You can read the bezel pearl, which is huge, against the minute hand, and now you've got a 0 to 60 minute count-up timer. Look, the 0 reset second is easy to see in the dark. So too is the independently settable travel time style hour hand for those of you who jump time zones. I prefer dive bezels to chronographs because I find them more intuitive to read, and then you don't have the downstream cost of service on a chronograph. And of course, we have an unusual dial here. Aside from the fact that it's complicated, it features applique indices instead of the more common sandwich style dial or printed features found on other Panerai watches. Also note the little bearing, the roller bearing in the cam of the lever, that's called the runner. On the reverse side, we have one of Panerai's exclusive movements built in its Neuchâtel manufacture. The case back is made of titanium, and you can see there's a little bronze infill within the titanium to give it that lovely contrast. It is a winder with bidirectional action ceramic bearings, 4 Hz beat rate, 72-hour power reserve, twin barrels in series for an even flat torque curve for consistent timekeeping and consistent balance amplitude from full wind to minimum wind. 29 joules. You can see it has a free sprung balance for shock resistance. And then we have a combination of polished and blued screws with satination across the 3/4 style bridge, a nod to the way pocket watch movements were finished in the Rolex, Codebert, and Angelus era of historic Panerai construction. Then there's engine turning on the base plate, and though it's machine applied, there's a neat and handsome beveling on the bridges. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And speaking of which, one more detail. If you're wondering how do you swap the straps on this watch, which has immense straps, by the way, it is a screw and bar system, old school Panerai fixture. Again, reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.